Okay, so one of the questions that comes up a lot is that why did I call my course Holographic Self? And the reason is in my studies of the gene keys and human design and how it all fits together, specifically with astrology and some of the other systems that kind of complement human design, I realized that the lines permeate our chart in a way that the entire thing is a hologram. So we can drill down and get so very specific. Every little aspect of our chart comes down to these 6 profile lines. So they're like lenses that we can see any little aspect of ourselves, as well as our entire costume, our profile. So line is the hologram throughout human design. So here's what I mean. The astrology connection is that each one of our gates that are active are shown on the sides of our human design chart, our conscious and our unconscious. You'll see all those planetary symbols, and each one of those is in a specific gate or gene key. So gene keys there's 64 of them, which correspond to the 64 gates. And we have our gene keys represented in particular planets. So a higher level of looking at human design is to look at it through the planetary aspects that we would normally look at via astrology. And then we would check on the gate and line representation of each planet. So this is where I think it gets super fun, especially for astrologers, to figure out how to deep dive into their chart. So this is what I'm talking about. The holographic nature of our profile is that line is present everywhere. So certain gates, like our sun and our earth, are really important in our chart. And that's why the lines associated with our conscious sun and earth and our unconscious sun and earth, that's what makes up our profile in human design. So, but then even each one of our individual planets that's shown on a standard human design chart. And people are even going deeper than this. There are resources looking at all the minor asteroids and various other, so heavenly bodies out there that we can go way, way, way deeper into this. There's a whole book on the asteroids in human design. I'll have to add that in the resources. It's fascinating stuff. So the lines, the gates, when we look at our Jupiter, for instance, here we have shown as 48.5. So the .5, the number on the right side of the decimal point, all of those are line numbers, right? So we have line 5 is leadership. It's maybe suspicion. It's that heretic nature, and it's coming through in Jupiter. Jupiter is traditionally about success and prosperity, maybe business oriented. So they have a 5th line lens on Jupiter. And the gate that is active is an unconscious gate 48. We can look at gate 48 specifically, but we know in general that it's in the splenic center. The splenic center is all about fear. So we can put all this together to get a very specific reading of what's going on here. So for instance, any profile that we look at, here is kind of a cheat sheet of the different planets. And we can look at our north and south node. If you haven't dug into north node astrology, that's also a fun little thing. North node and south node are kind of our trajectory. I think it's been called the dragon's head and tail. It's kind of like our life path of where we've been and where we're going. And then we can dig so much deeper into this. So with our mind and body, that is our physical form, right? Our human body elemental. And then our mind is kind of like our consciousness, our spirit, our awareness. And together that makes up our conscious sun and earth and our unconscious sun and earth. Now the gates that are in these 4 placements, they are the most important of our hologram, and they make up 80% of our personality. So if we look up those 4 gates, which incidentally are called our incarnation cross in human design, that gives us a huge insight into what we're doing with our lives and where we can take it, where we want to go. So this person, for instance, they're a 6-2 profile, because we see those numbers on the right of the decimal in their conscious sun and earth and their unconscious sun and earth. Then when we look at their incarnation cross, we're going to see gate 5, gate 35, gate 47, and gate 22. So those 4 gates or gene keys are going to be tremendous insight into their personality. So an overview of the very, of the planets and celestial bodies that you'll see. Here's a very brief overview. If you're already into astrology, you probably know a lot more about this, but very briefly, you're going to see things like Mercury is about communication. Chiron is the wounded healer and has to do with karmic repatterning. Neptune is about dreams and ideals. So we can get really, really specific about this. And this is some of the stuff that if you want a reading done specifically for a particular theme or area of your life, we can dig into this and get some specific insights that apply to you. So gate plus line plus planet is how we write your unique story. So for instance, if this person wanted to look at their career, leadership, abundance, and prosperity, they might want to look at their Jupiter and Saturn lines, right? So let's start with Jupiter. We see that they have in the conscious side, gate 28, line 1, and then unconscious, their Jupiter is gate 48, line 5. So line 1 is about foundation, research, detail, security. And then that line 5 is leadership, fixer or savior energy, discernment. Also, both the 28 consciously and the 48 unconsciously, if we find these gates inside the body graph, we see that they are both in the spleen, which has to do with survival, fear, and body elemental instinct. So this is just one way that we can look at the whole of our hologram. So thank you for being curious and wanting to explore your holographic self with me.